But let's go out to the phone lines, and we're going to welcome in our patron, Bilal. You can become a patron at patreon.com/mostvaluedpodcast. But we're going to welcome in our LA guy, our Lonzo connection, and our Ball family connection in to talk about the Lonzo Ball family, and we'll talk about Lonzo Ball's team, the New Orleans Pelicans. We're going to have Zion Williamson returning on the 22nd, I believe, on ESPN at like 9:30, so you can watch his debut. And with that, Bilal seems to be drinking a little bit of the Pelicans playoff juice because he said that he wants to talk about the Pelicans possibly making the playoffs. So, Bilal, what do you think about this team, where they stand right now, and what Zion can bring to their team?
So before the season started, I always envisioned the Pelicans making the playoffs. But when Zion got hurt, that kind of put a wrench in things. So, but now I think that it's definitely possible. Right now, I think they're sitting about like 4 or 5 games out of the playoffs, which I think is like Memphis or San Antonio or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but
you're four games out, and it's Memphis. You're right.
Okay. And yeah, I just really believe that this team, fully healthy, is a playoff caliber team. I know it's not going to be easy. I know that it's not as surefire as I thought it was before the season started, before the Zion injury. But the way the Pelicans have been playing recently, with the way that Ingram is playing,
mm-hmm.
with the way that Derek Favors is helping the team, with his defense and his efficiency, with the way Lonzo Ball is running the team, if he's shooting the ball whether or not, I think that he's running the team well with Jrue Holiday out of the lineup, and they've been getting wins. To me, that's how you judge a point guard. Basically, is how a team is winning, and I think that they've been doing that. But I think that when you add Jrue Holiday, J.J. Redick, and Zion Williamson to this team, I definitely believe that is a playoff caliber level team that's fully healthy.
You could tell that Bilal is a very smart, basketball fan when he's obviously listening to us and supporting us, but also when he brings up Derek Favors' efficiency and defense helping the team, because I've been saying it for how many years, and he's absolutely right. When Derek Favor plays, this team is I think they're like 5 games above 500, something like that. They're insanely better with Derek Favors on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to give a shout out to Derek Favors, but you're absolutely right. 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 2, and you see that Memphis has been able to get hot and then get into the playoffs. They've won 7 straight. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and now they're currently in the playoff spot at 20-22. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that 8th seed is grabbable by anybody. You really can't count out Minnesota because they were super hot to start off the season, and if Cat starts to play well, they could possibly sneak in. Same with Sacramento. They're underachieving. It wouldn't be shocking if they went on a run to the end of the season. Pelicans now adding the number 1 draft pick, getting Jrue Holiday healthy back at some point as well, having Derek Favors out there healthy. This team could truly start clicking soon. How likely do you think it is, Dave, that this team could possibly make a playoff run?
Honestly, it's like 50-50 right now that this team is going to be in the playoffs at the end of the season. It is incredible to think of, where this team started at with the injuries out of the gates and where they're at right now, because we kind of started the year and Lonzo Ball was like a shell of himself again, and in the last month we've really seen him come through and play amazing. He's moving the ball around that offense. It looks natural again, and I think it's really helped this team take a big step forward. They went on that 4-game win streak at the end of December, and then since then they've been playing really well. And I mean, you can't give enough credit and growth to what Brandon Ingram has done this season offensively. He's KD light. Mm-hmm. He's living up to expectations. He's killing the mid-range. If he starts getting the friendlier whistles and finishing through traffic, he's truly dangerous at that point. But he doesn't shy away from the big shot. He took them to overtime, gave them the win. It's just, this team's awesome to watch, and I think their depth is really what's been big for them. I agreed that Derek Favors coming back gives them a legitimate big to body down low, and that's been a big difference maker for them as well.
No, I mean, the next few games for them are going to be the most important. I know as we're recording this, they get the Clippers tonight, but Monday they've got Memphis, Wednesday, they've got San Antonio.
The Memphis game on MLK Day, like national TV, why did they not bring Zion back for that game? That would have been like the game.
Maybe he's not ready to, Dave. Maybe he's not ready to come
and
back.
Zion.
I think they're probably
MLK Day. Like, what more could people ask for?
They're probably more worried about their team actually being healthy and having their star rather than
2 days
driving up ratings.
I don't care. I don't care. It's 1 versus 2.
For me, I am going to be the biggest. Like, I've got my East Coast team, my number one team, but like my low key West Coast team is probably going to be the Pelicans for the rest of the year.
West Coast.
Well, I mean the West
They're in the Western
Coast
Conference.
team, like they're in the Western
There's a
Conference.
difference.
Yeah,
Coast and Conference.
Western Conference and
For
West
me,
Coast
if
is different.
you're not in the Eastern Conference, you're on the West
They're
Coast.
literally
That's
just
how it
straight
works.
below us. They're not even west of us.
Yes, I know they should be in the East.
They're kind of east of us. Anyways.
But I mean, they're probably going to be my low key Western Conference team the rest of the way because. It's funny how things have worked out from our predictions where we thought the Portland Trailblazers would be better than they are, and they're not. Like, but are they? Like the Suns, the Suns, I think they're on the way down. Like the Trailblazers will be how much of a
Ricky over here swiping.
Well, I can't touch you anymore.
I moved over.
I can't do that. I gotta just throw it out there.
Yeah.
But how much of a hole are they going to dig themselves into that they expect Nurkic to dig them out of? I'm not confident in the Spurs hanging on. And this I think it's going to be either the Grizzlies or the Pelicans that get that 8
Sean, can you hit us up with a little volume in the headphones here?
That's what I was talking about.
Talking about loudly, so I turned it down for myself. But yeah, I mean, going into Bilal and going into this Pelican team, let's focus a little bit on Zion coming back. Is there a part of this team that you feel is missing that Zion could add to this team? Is something that, Brandon Ingram possibly isn't bringing to this team, that Lonzo isn't bringing to this team, that Drew or Derek Favors isn't bringing to this team? Because I was looking at their team, and again, like it is kind of shocking that they haven't been better. Their depth is very good, but if you think there's one thing missing from this team that Zion could bring with his game and his skill set, what do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's glaring, really. It's glaring their problems at the power forward position. I mean, I've been watching them a lot, so I've been able to see that they've had to play Brandon Ingram at the power forward a lot, and that's fine in terms of him being able to, because most forwards are too slow to guard him. But on the opposite end, he can't protect the rim or he can't rebound in the way that's necessary for a real forward to do. So adding Zion Williamson in there brings that real forward presence, that rim protection, that rebounding. And only that, because if it's not Ingram, who is it? It's Nicola Melli, and he has potential, I think, but he's very up and down. He's kind of getting used to the whole NBA game. Even though he's an older rookie, he still isn't very ready. If it wasn't Ingram, it was Kenrich Williams. And he's honestly like the worst player I've ever seen play. He sucks. He's really bad. He goes like 4 games straight with scoring 0 points. Like if you look at the box score, like how are you out there for 30 minutes and you score 0 points? So that was a huge hole. So you replace that hole with Zion, just the ultimate matchup nightmare. There's no one in the NBA who matches up perfectly with him. Either they're too fast or they're too weak. Either they're too slow or they're too weak. One of the other options. So you're adding in Zion to that situation where he loves to move off the ball, playing with guys like Lonzo and Drew Holiday, which we talked about before. And so he'll just open up so many things for so many guys like Lonzo and Brandon Ingram who are becoming better 3-point shooters. With Zion in the game, they'll be getting much more open looks because teams will have to build a wall for Zion, which means that there'll be open looks for Lonzo, open looks for Ingram, open looks for Drew Holiday, all these guys who are okay 3-point shooters but can be a lot better with wide open looks.
Yeah,
so I think that
go ahead.
It'll work that way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring all that up because I think you're absolutely right, and it's funny too because you're talking about them needing speed and strength, and you're talking about a guy that's 6'8", 275, and he's going to somehow bring both speed and strength to that team.
275, yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's a big kid. 285 if you want to be generous. But with that, I think the biggest concern that I have is how are him and Ingram going to play together. Let me get your take on that first. How do you think they're going to gel together? Do you think there's going to be issues there?
I understand that. I've been thinking about that too also. I've been trying to figure out in my head how that really works. But I think that in basketball, like the natural order of things, kind of like the cream rises to the top in situations. Like if you look in the preseason, like you could tell that Ingram kind of noticed like, okay, like this guy, he's kind of better than me. So he kind of like backed up a little bit. And then as you watch it, you see Zion kind of, because he just scores. He scores so effortlessly. He scores with such a high percentage, like field goal, like 70%, shooting like 30%. So it's like if you see a guy that's this good, this explosive, you kind of just like, okay, he's better than me. But also at the same time, England won't really have to take too much of a back step because Zion's going to be coming in with a minute restriction by I think 20 minutes, 25 minutes a game, and Zion can get his points without you calling plays for him. He doesn't need. He'll offensive rebound and dunk it back on you. If you're not watching out for him, he'll do that to you. He'll cut. He'll pick and roll. Like he's a guy who can get 20 without really you calling plays for him. So I think that and also Ingram is shooting I think 40% from the three. So he also spaces the floor. So you can't just leave him like you could last year. Mm-hmm. So their fit on the court might not be as bad as people think because Ingram also stretches the floor, so you can't just collapse the floor on this team.
Yeah, he has improved as a three-point shooter, and we did see his sophomore year that did shoot around 39%. But we have also seen him just become an incredible shooter this year, and I wonder how much of it is just him being hot and him playing. And this is Ingram, by the way. Him playing hot and him playing for a contract year because he's never been over a 70% free throw shooter, and now he's at 86%, and he's just been drilling every time he goes to the line. Shot after shot after shot. So I do wonder if that three-point percentage is inflated, but also you could be absolutely correct that if he is that dangerous, it's just going to create that space, and people are going to crash on Zion, and that's just going to open up, and NBA shooters are going to hit wide open threes. And Ingram's no different than that. Before I go to Dave on this, I do want to say the Kendrick Williams idea of him playing 20 minutes and scoring 0 points. He's 7th in the NBA. He's had 3 games of 20 minutes or more played with 0 points.
Tony Snell's got to be number 1.
No, not
what?
Tony Snell. Any other guesses?
That was my best and only
Say it
guess.
one more time. I'll be honest.
Most games with 20 minutes and 0 points scored. You're not going to get it. It's Trevor Ariza. Yeah. Trevor Ariza is 6. Oh, yeah. And the worst player in the NBA, according to Bilal Kendrick Williams. I mean, I love when people make those observations, though. It's hilarious, and it's just great because you're not wrong. I mean, Kendrick Williams isn't too many to count. So no, that's a fun thing to bring up. So bring up more stuff like that. That's awesome. But at least to Bilal's point, because I think he makes some great points there, especially with Ingram and Zion's fit. Mm-hmm. How do you think those two are going to fit? Because right now those two guys are your stars, although Drew Holiday is such an impactful player. I don't know. I wonder if he is a star, though. You know what I'm saying? Zion and Brandon Ingram are stars. Those guys can average over 25 points per game, and I think those guys are matchup nightmares where Drew Holiday is a extremely good NBA player, great NBA player. I just don't know if he's a star. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Some of it's personality, some of it's the way he plays, and his play style being a two-way guard. As efficient as he is, as quiet as he is. It just, at the end of the night, you look down and you're like, oh yeah, he's very good. He got his, and he's played great defense. And on the point of Brandon Ingram shooting, somebody did a breakdown on Reddit, actually, of every year they had his shot form, and it tweaked over time. And this year, it's where the elbow has been tucked in. He's much more straight away at the basket, the way he lines up. So it was interesting to see his form has actually adjusted quite a bit over time, and he has improved, and the numbers show it. And I think that's I don't believe the 40% is inflated. I think that's legitimately where he's at.
It's called coaching too. The coaches are better with the Pelicans.
He's not stuck with Luke Walton.
I know, and that's the thing too of not just a Alvin Gentry of being the better coaching, but more consistent coaching, where it's when Ingram and you can even say with Lonzo too. When they were in LA, it's like there was no stability there at all. And now you can probably say with this season has been the most stability that they have had in a season with their coaching staff.
I disagree a little bit. I don't think you're wrong in saying that, obviously he's being put in better spots consistently. I think that they're using him in a much better way, but the free throw percentage is just, I think, strictly on Ingram. Yeah. The fact that he's changing his shot for him year after year, the fact that he is, the way that he's playing like this, you don't just go from a 68% shooter in college and then 3 years in the NBA to an 86% free throw shooter by coaching.
I'll throw out this too.
But I have a question, though. How did he do that? But you know what I'm saying? Because he was hurt all summer. That's what I'm wondering. Mm-hmm. How did he get better when he was hurt all summer? That's what I'm kind of wondering, like, how did he do it? I'm actually not sure, but he did change his form. Like, his free throw shooting form is different. Mm-hmm. Did he do it in one, like, training camp? Like, I don't know how he did it.
I don't want to say...
He couldn't shoot.
Yeah. I don't want to say that, like, because obviously I don't know BI, but I'm going to have a very Colin Cowherd-like take here. You ready for it? When you're in L.A., there's a lot of shit to do in L.A., a lot of distractions to take you away from what your main job is. Not as many things like I know you've got Bourbon Street in New Orleans, but New Orleans ain't L.A., so maybe it was just one of those things with coaching mixed with the change of scenery. Hey, I'm going to get in the gym more, and I'm going to get mine and work on my game, and now we're seeing the dividends of that.
I think the biggest thing, I think that's a ton of bullshit.
Maybe he's working harder.
I think the biggest thing is, I don't think he's working harder, but I think one thing that...
Or working smarter.
I think the one thing that could have helped him is, at least in that off time, at least be studying tape and be working with a shot doctor and being like, all right, this is what you need to be changing. This is how you need to fix things. He gets into the gym, starts working on that thing, and then also I think his numbers are inflated. I don't think he is this good of a free throw shooter. It's only been 37 games, so I think it could be a small sample size that are increasing and inflating this, but I do think that he has been able to put in work by diagnosing what's wrong with his shot, looking, game to game, what's been feeling comfortable and what was working in the games that it was working prior, because he was really on, off, and inconsistent. I think it was just more tweaking his shot, making sure that those tweaks were made on a game-to-game basis, a night-to-night basis. Probably getting up a ton of shots throughout this season as well, especially free throws post-practice. And then I think as well, again, working with the shot doctor while he was injured, just to at least see like what exactly was wrong with his shot. And I think that probably has to be what it was, because I remember the time that someone told me to tuck my elbow in when I was shooting, and the difference it truly made when I was a free throw shooting, and then I would forget it when I actually went out onto the floor and actually started doing it, because I wouldn't be thinking about tucking my elbow in. So it could have just been something that he started training where all it was tucking his elbow in, and he just started doing workouts and routines to at least, where he didn't have to truly be physical, but at least get in the motion of, all right, when I go to the line, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to bring my body, my elbow in close to my body to make sure that it is stuck to my body. Or, people do weird things of just literally like tying their arms to their body to then just make sure that that's always a natural resting spot for them when they're at the line. So that could have been something, but I do think it's a little bit inflated. The final thing, and it's more back to the playoff idea, because the West is open, that 8 seed is open. I don't think Memphis is as good as they are.
Get out of here.
They've won 7 straight games, but and I love them, but I don't think they're as good as they are.
TV.
I do want to talk a little bit about the depth, and they have a star in Brandon Ingram. He's been playing like that. You assume that Zion's going to be a star. You have an all-star guard in Drew Holiday. Like you were saying, Lonzo Ball is very good at moving the ball. He's a very good defender. He's been a decent three-point shooter this year, at least for Lonzo, been shooting 32%. They have a very good center in Derek Favors, and I do think that their bench is very interesting as well. You have Nicky Alexander-Walker. You brought up Nico Melli.
You still have J.J. Redick.
You have J.J. Redick, Darius Miller. There are a lot of good NBA players on this team. With their depth, Bilal, do you think this is a team that, if they get to the playoffs, do you think this could be a team that could go up against a Denver, could go up against a Utah team, and possibly upset a team in the series? Because right now we haven't seen any of these players on the floor, so we don't know how good this team can truly be. At least on paper, do you think they could go into one of these better teams? Maybe not the Lakers, maybe not the Clippers, but do you think they can go into the best of the Western Conference if they do go on a run, get that 8 seed, that 7 seed, that 6 seed, etc., and possibly upset one of the higher seeds?
Yes, I do believe so. I mean, not the Clippers, not the Lakers. That's not happening. They're not beating either one of those teams. Probably getting out in 4 or gentlemen sweep 5. But Denver, Utah, yeah, those teams can be beat with Zion, with Drew Holiday, with who else is left? JJ Redick still coming back. I think that it's definitely possible. A lot of these losses came this year really due to injury. Like, a lot of these losses, like, I know this team seems to be deep, but once you get to having all the injuries, then you have to play guys a lot of minutes like Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Josh Hart and Etuan Moore and Frank Jackson got to play big minutes, like 30 minutes. Like, you're not going to win a lot of games like that. Those guys aren't really ready to play that amount of minutes and get wins. But I think that this team, fully healthy, definitely has a chance. So I actually have a question for you guys. I think that I was wondering, who do you guys think is the starting 5 for the Pelicans? Who, when they're fully healthy, what is the starting 5 for the Pelicans? I kind of wondering what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question and a good one, and maybe you should be the host of this podcast because I probably should have asked that a little bit earlier. So good question by you. I would probably say for me, Zoe at the 1. I think that his ability with the in the fast break and in transition is going to be something that you can't pass up matchup wise when you have Zion healthy, because we know what Zion can do in the open floor, and if you have a passer like Lonzo, you cannot pair those two together. And I would like to see what you can do with because he is still a very talented player and a very talented defender. I don't think you could take him off the floor. So I put Zoe at the 1. When healthy, I would put Drew Holiday at the 2. You're paying him for a good reason. He's an all-star player, and we know that he's better at that 2 slot anyways. At the 3, I would go Brandon Ingram. At the 4, I would go Zion Williamson. At the 5, I'd go Derek Favors. I know Favors and Zion might bring up a little bit of stretch question marks, which is fair, but I do think that Zion, while he may not be a great three-point shooter in the NBA, he is at least, I think if you leave him open enough, I think he can at least be a 33% shooter. He has a horrible form. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's not a good shooter form-wise, but it does go in. So I'm really not going to question that. And if it's, it's the honest thing. If he's able to be at least a little bit below average, if he can at least show people that it's going to go in if you leave him open enough,
they got to guard him.
You have to guard him. So it's going to open up the floor. Yeah. And he's not afraid to shoot it, I don't think. So I think that the spacing question marks can be solved. And then again, Favors also isn't a bad mid-range shooter. So I think that you could still find a way to at least work around that and have Zion at least in the post. And also him crashing the boards is going to be insane. So I think that you can play Favors and Zion together, or at least I would like to see it happen to see if it can be a pair that works, because Favors is going to grab you at least 10 boards to 15 boards a game, and Zion crashing in is going to
easily 10 plus.
Is going to, I mean, they're going to be able to rebound with those two alone. And defensively, Favors is great, Zion's great.
Yeah,
Ingram's a pretty decent defender to a good defender, and Lonzo and Drew are already great defenders. So I mean, defensively, this is not going to be a team that's going to be giving up 117 a night. That's inflated. And I do think that offensively they could make it work. So that would be my starting 5. Dave, what about you?
The only change I'd make, and you're going to hate me, I don't know that I would put Favors in the starting 5. I think I'd try out Jackson Hayes.
Ooh.
Look,
okay.
He's young, he's bouncy, and he's been playing better as of late, and I want to give him the run. I think you can roll out Derek Favors with that lineup. I don't have any issues with that. But I like Jackson Hayes out there just a smidge more.
Why?
You could also slide.
Why exactly? I just want to.
I think Favors, if you going into the playoffs, matches up. Like, I would want him out there against Trez. I think Trez eats Jackson Hayes alive. But I think offensively, having Jackson Hayes there, you have somebody who he's got decent defensive instincts. He's not quite all the way there yet. His body's still growing. But I think that what he can bring offensively, work in the low post, he's still a really good shooter. And Zion's like if you
and
take
Lonzo
his
can
numbers,
lob up to either Zion or Jackson.
it gives you 2 big targets in the low post, and I like that for BI and Zoe to toss it up. I think that you could move Zion to the 5 and add in, a JJ Redick or an Etuan Moore, and you could go that route as well.
That's the thing I like with this lineup of. I would go with Sean's Jackson just because I don't know if Jackson Hayes is ready.
Yeah,
that's
probably not.
But
like
the future would be Jackson Hayes.
Yeah.
But I love the small ball lineup possibility of okay, let's take Favors out. We'll move Ingram to the 4, Zion to the 5, put JJ in at the 3, or JJ in
Yeah.
Probably at the 3 because you're not going to move.
No, you move Drew over to the 3.
You
have to.
Either or.
JJ can't guard threes. He can't guard anyone.
Here they've got JJ listed as the 3 and Drew listed as the 2, but
they're just wrong.
You can interchange those and go with a smaller lineup if your opponent's we're going to go small ball too, because
think of
in a small ball lineup,
pace.
Zion can play the center.
Think of the pace. The Pelicans are up there as far as pace of play in the NBA, so I think that's one of the biggest things.
They want to run, baby.
They've been running without Zion. Imagine adding Zion Williamson to this team.
Can't wait for the 22nd.
And JJ shooting like an insane percent from 3 this year. I think he's, 45% from 3 this year? He's something crazy. And it goes low key because, let's be honest, this team has not been winning the majority of games. So
46.
Jesus.
Yeah, 46.4% on 6.8 attempts per game.
So if they're playing up tempo and go small ball, that's very hard to compete against.
I think they can be very creative. Again, they have great depth, which I'm very excited about. If I'm going starting 5, though, I think that Favors also proved before. Again, I just want to go back to his mid-range shooting. I think it's underrated. At least 10 to 3-point line, 10 feet to the 3-point line. He shot 40% last year, and he showed that he can play next to guys like Gobert. I do think that him and Zion in a pick-and-roll situation could be something that they could exploit as well. I think that they can. I think that Favors it hasn't been used to his full capability yet, and even with that, the team's still 11-11 when he starts. So I think that he at least brings something to that team when he starts. I think he brings veteran leadership that Jackson Hayes just doesn't know yet. He brings smart basketball play to where Hayes is just very young yet, and he cannot bring that type of level of play yet. Bilal, obviously, if you ask the question, you got to answer it. So what would your starting 5 be for the New Orleans Pelicans when everybody is healthy?
Okay, let me first start by saying you guys are pretty smart because I agree with all of you guys. That's
I don't hear that much, so thank you.
So I guess it's the reason why I listen to this podcast.
Thanks, man.
But so pretty much, I would start Zoe, Drew Holiday at the 2, Ingram at the 3, Zion at the 4. And Derek Favors at the 5. But that's really just because Jackson Hayes isn't ready yet. I've been watching him. He's not really ready to – he can't bang in the post with anybody yet. He's not ready to do that. But if he's going against a center like the Clippers, that's you made a good point, David. If the Clippers, that makes sense to start Jackson Hayes rather than starting Derek Favors. But for most other situations, I think you'd rather start Favors just because of his savvy, the way he talks and calls things out on defense, just the way that he plays. You can tell, he's been there before. Jackson Hayes picks up, 3 fouls in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. He's just kind of young. But going forward in the future, he's definitely the center for the future, Jackson Hayes is. Just because of how he runs the floor, his athleticism, he's perfect for the team. They want to get up and run. So he's a perfect center really to run with Lonzo and Zion going forward in the future. But as of right now, if I were to start and just to keep the stability of the team and just keep what's been working, I would just stick with Derek Favors at the 5 for now, and just see how the game goes. He might play more, but it depends on who's playing well throughout that game. Also, Jahlil Okafor is not too bad. He plays a couple minutes here and there. You never know. He might get some run depending on how the game goes. Also, Ricky, what you said about Zion, that's what I was thinking about, how the Pelicans should close games in the playoffs if they were to make it, or any game, is with Zion at the 5, because that just presents a huge matchup nightmare for anybody. And you get J.J. Redick on the floor also, so you can spread the floor ridiculously and have Zion matched up against whatever team's center, and that could just be nightmare problems for the other team. So it's just replace. It's the whole Draymond thing, but just a better player.
Yeah, if Zion can,
I don't think Zion's gonna be kicking balls either. He's not going to be playing soccer out there.
Hope not.
If Zion can at least guard 5s, I think that is definitely going to be a lineup that they look to exploit, because the biggest question mark then is, can Zoe stretch the floor? And he's been able to do it so far. He's been shooting 32%, like we said before. But even then, I think you have 3 guys that are capable shooters, and that helps because Ingram's been a better shooter this year. That was another question mark. Can Lonzo, Zion, and BI all stretch the floor. And so far, BI has been able to do that. And at least within those two, at least Zion and Lonzo, you could just run pick and roll with those two. And I know Lonzo hasn't been a great half-court facilitator, but I think if you're giving him that big of a target to throw at, I think that it could be a very electric offense. And once those guys start collapsing, you're just going to be able to kick it around. And you're going to hit a 46% shooter in J.J. Redick. You're going to hit a 44% shooter in BI, or you're going to hit a guy that I think has been near around 37% on his career in Drew Holiday. So it could be dangerous as well. The other point I wanted to make was the Jackson Hayes point. And you're right. Obviously, if he's going up against bigger guys, he can get pushed around. But I do like him against smaller guys. And it showed in 3 games in January when he was going up against a team in Chicago that I think they lost. It was the game they lost Wendell. So they lost Wendell. Wendell was out. They didn't have that big matchups. So they were exploiting Luke Cornett. They were exploiting Lauri Markkanen defensively because he was just being more aggressive. So when he's not going up against aggressive bigs like Markkanen or Cornett or like Enes Kanter against Boston.
Even with Wendell, power forwards and centers have kind of toasted us this year.
and then with New York too, they were starting Taj Gibson and they were starting Bobby Portis. So he was able to, in those 3 games, all have games over 15 points because he was able to be aggressive, and that is what his best attribute is his aggressiveness and his athletic ability, which is something that they can exploit and use. So that's where I like Okafor and Hayes off the bench, because Okafor gives you a little bit more of finesse game and a little bit more of size, where Hayes at least gives you aggressiveness and athletic ability. I love their team.
They've got a bunch of different things they can tweak out for different matchups, and I think that is the answer. They're not ready yet. They've got such a young group of guys. But exactly like you said, given a situation, they might have an answer off the bench who can step in and make an opportunity for them to win a game.
I also want to get Chet in this. I
was going to say throw EJ.
Yeah, I think EJ wins. Is that easy wins?
Yeah,
throwing a G in there.
Might have been taken.
But not only does he say Zion can make set shot from time to time, the big one. Easy, he gonna eat his foot if the Pelicans make the playoffs.
I just don't want J.J. Redick's streak to go down.
Picks or it didn't happen.
J.J. Redick needs to make the playoffs. That's the rule.
Yeah. So let's give final thoughts. Bilal, I thought this was a great topic. So wrap it up. Pelicans making the playoffs, is it possible? And you know, if you had to put a percentage on it, what would you throw out there?
So I'd say it's definitely possible that the Pelicans make the playoffs. Granted health, obviously. I would say percentage-wise, it's about a 65% chance to make the playoffs.
Damn.
I'll go right there with it.
That's pretty high. Not backing down.
I like it.
Yeah. Also, want to throw in one last thing because we pretty much said everything. So just to wrap it up, I think that the Pelicans should look into trading some players before the deadline, either Drew Holiday or J.J. Redick. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I kind of think that Drew Holiday it just depends if he could get into his role of just scoring and defending, and kind of let Lonzo run the team, you know, because he will get his shots. It's not like Lonzo's gonna hog the ball. If he could kind of get on the wing and just kind of be in his role of just a guy who can get buckets, like don't worry about too much of being the point guard, kind of let Lonzo see the floor, then I think that could work. But I think that the Pelicans might want to look into trading Drew Holiday. I'm not sure. I kind of think that a player like Miles Turner would be perfect for this Pelicans team.
Okay.
That's just me just throwing shots in the dark. But I think that they might want to look into trading a guy like Drew Holiday, just because to me he's been disappointing this year, and kind of all the whole David Griffin calling him he could be the MVP and all that is blasphemy. Like he's not that good. They were calling him like, oh, he's going to be the MVP. He could possibly be the MVP. Blah blah. I think he's been disappointing this year. I like Drew Holiday a lot. I was very impressed with him when the way he locked down Dame Lillard that one year in the playoffs, and how they pretty much did that whole sweep of the Blazers. But I think kind of test the market, and I would actually look into trading Drew Holiday. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I do think that we keep talking about injuries with the team, and I think it's probably difficult to get a true look of what him and Lonzo could look like together on the floor. Just because Drew's missed time in the past 5 or 6 games, and Lonzo missed a lot of time too. He's only played 35 and only been able to start 25 games this year. So I think it's just difficult for them to get everything on the floor and together. But I think we have seen that Lonzo has been more effective with Drew Holiday off the floor. So it could be something that could be they could look into. But I think if they were going to move one of those guards and felt like they had to, I know you're a Lonzo guy, but I think they might look into moving Lonzo just because he is younger. They could get a better return, and Drew Holiday is locked up long term. But I do like Zo's fit better with Zion than Drew Holiday's fit.
You think they can get more for Lonzo than they can get for Drew Holiday? You think the NBA views it that way? I wasn't quite sure.
I think it's easy. I think that Drew Holiday gets a bigger return because he is controlled. But I think that Lonzo is an easier person to move, and you still get a very impressive return, or not impressive, but I think you can at least get a still very a return that a good return that could help you. Help the team not only this year but also in the future. I think that Drew Holiday gets you a better return just because of his contract. Final thoughts, Dave. You guys want to address the Drew Holiday thing? Final thoughts?
Not the Drew Holiday thing. For me, the playoff question that you asked was, I don't know if I'm ready to say Pelicans in the playoffs for sure, but I am ready to say it's either going to be the Grizzlies or the Pelicans that make that 8th seed.
Youth.
Yeah, and I mean, Bilal said 65%. So, I mean, that's at least 50-50, or at least what you said.
I'm 50-50 right now. And, I mean, if Zion, I know his preseason numbers. It was 4 games, but, like, the dude was shooting 71% from the field, putting up, like, 23 and 7.
And made Kevin Knox look like a kid.
He did take the ball away from Kevin Knox like a baby in candy. Like, it was just, it was a moment.
And in the preseason, he shot 12 of 13 from the field against the Bulls.
Yeah, he murdered us. So if Zion looks anything like that, this team's going to be disgusting. But I'm keeping it 50-50. They got a bunch of teams that got to leap over to get to the playoffs, and they could easily get on a roll, though.
I got one last question. Can Zion, I'm going to say, steal the Rookie of the Year award away from, like, can he come in and
if
just,
they make the playoffs, he will.
Without a full season, just comes in and steals the Rookie of the Year award?
Don't do that to me.
If they make the playoffs over the Grizzlies, they absolutely will.
Don't do it.
I think
I
they
agree.
will.
Don't be that way.
I agree.
I hate all of you.
That's the only way.
John Morant's the only Rookie of the Year in this conversation. Period. Done.
All right, Bilal, we appreciate the topic. We appreciate your support on Patreon. If you want to become like Bilal, check out patreon.com/MostOutPodcast. Always fun to talk Lonzo Ball and the Ball family with our guy Bilal. But I know he's got a lot of draft topics in him as well, so it's going to be fun to talk to him for over the next couple months. So we want to give a shout out to Bilal for supporting us on Patreon, and we want to thank you for watching. We're going to talk about the Nets next. So Bilal, thank you, and we appreciate your support, man.
See you guys.
See you.